Welcome to the Big Movement Podcast. If you're ready to create results and make huge strides in your business, finances, personal development, and health, then you're in the right place. Pushing past excuses and powering through procrastination can be a challenge alone. Here, you'll get the support, tools, and knowledge you need to get to the level you desire in your business and life. Let's get started with your host, Byron Ingram.
And welcome to another episode of the Big Movement Podcast. Today we have a special guest. We have Kelly-Roach, who is the host of the top-rated podcast, Unstoppable Success Radio, and she's an international best-selling author and also the CEO of Kelly-Roach Coaching. Her passion and purpose is in helping entrepreneurs around the world achieve profit and freedom. So let's give a warm welcome to Kelly. So Kelly, welcome.
Hey, Byron. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. Glad to have you here. So tell me a little bit more about yourself, because you have all this passion, this energy, this fire for helping people. I want to know where it comes from.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, first and foremost, I'm a wife and mom. So I have a 2.5-year-old daughter named Madison. Have to get that in there because that's really, what's most important in my world. But besides that, yeah, absolutely. So, I came from a background where, certainly we struggled a lot with money growing up. And, for me, one of the biggest aha moments in my life was when I realized that you really can have or be or do anything that you want if you're willing to work for it. And then to take it a step further, I realized that the best way to achieve that financial freedom and to get to those big goals and those big dreams was through building your own business. And for me, I want to help as many people as humanly possible to really alleviate financial pressure and stress, and also create a life of purpose and meaning and significance doing what they love by building and growing their own business.
Oh, that's excellent. And you're so right that building your own business is truly one of the best ways to create that financial freedom, because then the only limit is yourself versus someone else telling you this is the maximum amount that you're going to make per year.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, there's so many things. And, especially for me, I did the whole corporate thing. I got the 7 promotions in 8 years. I was at the very top of the organization, managing 17 branches and almost 100 people. And, you can achieve a lot of success in the corporate realm, but the problem is very differently from in the entrepreneurial space. As you continue to move up in the corporate realm, it's more and more demanding. It's more and more hours. And regardless of what your contribution and performance is, the hours keep growing, the more that you get promoted versus, as an entrepreneur, as you build and grow your own team and you have people underneath you and your organization that can sell and can do the operations and the marketing, and you put systems and automation in place, you can work less and make more. And so, that's a very important distinction, down the road as you build your business. Right.
Oh, definitely. It's an extremely powerful thing when you can grasp that, because while you can have that rewarding career, just like you said, life is ultimately about more than just working. And you think about how many times people like yourself, they become parents and they want to have more than just seeing their kid in a fleeting moment. Like, oh, look, there they go, off to do the next thing as you're dropping them off at school and picking them up.
Exactly. And for me, I kind of had that foresight to know, like, hey, I want to get married. I want to have a family. I want to actually be active and be present in my kids' lives and, play a big role. And I knew those two things were not going to go hand in hand. So, that was a big reason why I knew entrepreneurship was the only path forward from there.
So then how did you get into your current business with helping people? Because it's a noble thing to do, and people need that inspiration of how do they discover that passion? Because you think about how many times someone says, well, I want to be an entrepreneur, and then they're stuck like, well, what do I do?
Yeah, definitely. Well, for me, the thing that allowed me to get promoted and have the success in the Fortune 500 that I did was all because of business growth strategy and leadership. So what I did was I learned how to put systems and strategies in place to create rapid growth. And then I broke it down into really simple to follow, teachable lessons and modules and trainings. And then I focused on helping others to take those things and and put them in place in their business. And so that all of my success came from essentially doing what I do today, but doing it in the corporate space, if that makes sense. And for me, I just felt like it was a natural and obvious opening in the market because, I looked at, well, who really needs this the most? Maybe not corporations that are already making millions of dollars, maybe the small business owner that's trying to feed their family and pay the mortgage and, create a life for themselves. I felt like that's where the biggest need was and where I would get the most fulfillment out of helping people.
And that in itself is great because you relied on your strengths, the things that you're already doing. You just transitioning it to the entrepreneurial world instead of reinventing the wheel to do something entirely different.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so many times people discount their past and their history and their previous experience and the jobs that they did, and they make it so much harder for themselves than it needs to be. I always say to people, like, look in your history, look in, all the skills that you've built, the experiences that you've had, the accomplishments that you've created, and lean on those and use them to catapult you into whatever you want your future to look like. I think, we as humans many times overcomplicate things so much that we're like searching for that perfect thing when like it's all already there.
Right. Oh, definitely. It's just taking a moment to look in front of us and see that it's right there.
Yes. 100%.
And that makes all the difference. So obviously people need to grasp onto their experiences and just run with it. How do people get started with taking their message out there? Because you think about how many times someone has ideas like, I want to do blank, but then how do I start getting found? How do I get clients? Because it's different than just showing up to a cubicle, every day now that you're responsible for everything.
Absolutely. Well, I think the number one thing, Byron, is, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to realize that your craft is now sales and marketing. Your craft is now getting visibility for your business. And you have to study and you have to learn and you have to train and you have to work very diligently at becoming good at sales and marketing if you want to be in business, stay in business, and actually enjoy the benefits of being an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people are really slow to understand that, Byron. And, obviously 95% of businesses fail, and there's a reason for that. I think many times people confuse, their craft, meaning the thing that they do, with their craft, which is sales and marketing, the thing that will keep them in business, make them money, and allow them to achieve their goals. So I think that understanding and that awareness is absolutely the first step. There's so many resources and tools and people like me out there that are teaching constantly on sales and marketing, that even by listening to, podcasts and doing free trainings and that type of thing, you can begin to understand the process. But awareness is the first step. And then the second step is to take deliberate, consistent, and frequent action to put yourself in front of your target market in a big, bold way. So whether you decide to start your own podcast or whether you start to do live streaming a couple times a week, creating videos and promoting them to your Facebook fans, running a like campaign to your page so that you can attract the people that are looking for information and resources in your niche, or even just putting together a list of 20 local companies that you want to do business with that would hire someone like you for a product or service that they need. There's no right or a wrong way, but it's just an awareness that that's what you need to do, and then a deliberate plan of action to go out there and do it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, totally. That's what you have to do. You have to change that perspective. You think about how many times people don't realize they're truly in that business of promoting themselves. Because if no one knows who you are, it doesn't matter how fantastic you are at it, you're not in business.
Absolutely. And I hear from new entrepreneurs all the time, I just want to do the work. I just want to do the work. I don't want to go out and promote myself, and I don't want to do this. And I don't. If you just want to do the work, then go work in someone else's company as an employee doing that job. Because as an entrepreneur, the vast majority of your time and focus and energy is going to be on sales and marketing and infrastructure and creating products and programs and, sales, essentially. And then when it's not sales anymore, it becomes managing your team, right? So, if you just want to do the work, entrepreneurship might not be the right path forward for you. And that's okay. It's not for everyone.
Oh, right. Exactly. That there's a different path for everyone, because not everyone's going to be cut out to do the entrepreneurial path, because you think of all the ups and downs that you're going to have those times like, oh my gosh, this worked great. Other times, well, that was a flop. Mm-hmm. And you have to
Absolutely.
accept it.
Well, and I think that you bring up a really good point there, because the tolerance for failure has to be incredibly high to actually succeed as an entrepreneur. You have to be willing to fail in some way, shape, or form every single day if you're really committed to becoming a successful entrepreneur, because so much of what it takes to learn the competencies relevant to entrepreneurship can only be learned on the job. There are things you can't learn by sitting in on a training, and someone can't just, you can't just color in the dots. There's so much more to it. And it's really through action that you learn. And it's also through, failure that you get pointed in the right direction as far as the next step you need to take to turn that into success.
Exactly. So when you were building your business, what was like a failure that it was an aha moment for you that you learned how to overcome it and ultimately you became stronger?
Definitely. Well, for me, webinars are a huge part of my business, and we do webinars almost every single week because it's a great client generation source for us. And I always tell the story of when I first discovered webinars and I decided it was going to be a huge focus for me in the business. I knew that the concept was extremely powerful, and I knew that I wanted to leverage it. And so I got started with webinars very early on in my business, and I invested in a coach specifically for webinars. I spent like $9,000. Plus on top of that, I spent all this money on Facebook ads, and I did my first webinar. And, at the time I was still working full time. So I took 2 days off of work because I knew I was going to be so booked solid afterwards with coaching clients and, all of this stuff. I had very high hopes for myself there. And I did that first webinar and I got no response. No one was interested. No one signed up even for a free consultation. I wasn't even selling a product or service at the time. And, the big aha for me, Byron, was that I didn't have a mature audience, a brand following where I had those subscribers and fans and followers that were really invested in my message and in me and were ready to buy. And I just hadn't given the people on my list enough time to develop that affinity, to me and my products and services to be ready to buy. And so I think, one of the things is that we all want that instant gratification. We all want that overnight success. But anything that's going to be really powerful and really productive is going to take hard work, and it's going to take time and maturity and all of that. So, I think I could look at 100 things now that I probably did wrong in that situation. It was quite devastating at the time, both financially and otherwise, but it was definitely a big aha for me. And it definitely, really forced me to take a cold, hard look at myself. And, I knew webinars worked. So I knew it wasn't the process or the tool that wasn't working. It was me. And what did I need to change and do better and learn from to make them work, essentially.
And that's great that you had that big aha moment there, because you think about how many times people have that failure and then they stop like, oh no, this doesn't work. I'm just going to go back, and not realizing if you talk to anyone successful, there's that common pattern there. Everyone has had that moment where they just fell flat on their face because things did not go the way they planned. You have those big hopes, big expectations, and you hear crickets.
Exactly. And I think, really learning from that is so, so important, because there's always a reason why. Like when something fails, there's a reason why. And we want to oversimplify it because we want that immediate result. But it's so important to study what happened and to use that to take your next step and to figure out what you need to do differently the next time around.
Oh, definitely. You have to do that. If you fail and you don't learn from it, you're just going to go into this endless cycle of repeating mistakes instead of just realize this is what happened. How do you fix it? Implement the changes necessary and then do it again.
Exactly.
Because you think about it, like So that was your first webinar. When did you start seeing the success with webinars in your business? Was it like the second one, or how many did you do before
Oh,
you did
no,
that?
no. Oh, not even close. Oh my gosh. I mean, oh gosh, I can't even tell you. It probably was webinar 10 or 15. And that's the other thing. I mean, that's what people have to understand. And that's what everyone doesn't understand. You know, you can follow the model exactly of someone in your industry or niche or field and do exactly what they do. But that does not guarantee success. There's a time element and there's nuances that you almost can't even on the surface identify that come through the repetition of doing something over and over again, and the time of you developing and evolving and your business developing and evolving and your product and service and your offer developing that lead to that success. So no, it was nowhere near the first or the second or the third. Like I said, I think I didn't track it, but I would say probably it was close to number 15, Byron, before it really started picking up. And I was like, okay, this is cash flow on demand. I can consistently rely on webinars in my business.
Oh, that's excellent. And I think that's the other aspect is that, you know, we automatically assume it's going to be the second time we do it. And just like in your case, it took time. And you had to refine your process each and every time.
Exactly. And I made significant refinements every single time. And I still do. I still look at what's working and what's not. And every time we do a webinar, we try to improve. My clients ask me every single time, they're like, why do you keep doing the same webinars live over and over again instead of flipping them over to automated? And I'm like, because we still want to keep getting better and better results every time. We still want to keep learning and growing and improving. If you just flip it over to automated, then you're settling for whatever result you got at that level instead of committing to keep on growing and keep increasing the optimization, the return that you get from that.
Right, exactly. You have to always strive for that constant improvement. There's a time for automation, and there's a time where you really want to connect with somebody.
Yes, exactly. And it's so important. And I think, you know, now more than ever, Byron, I mean, I know what I'm seeing out there today is that more than anything, with this sense of connection that we have with social media and everything else, people feel more disconnected than ever. And so the human touch has become so powerful and so meaningful to people that, you know, when you do take that extra step and put in that extra effort to actually have that sense of connection and engagement and interaction with people, you know, that's where the magic happens for sure. And I use automation, you know, I use things in my business and systems very frequently, and there's a place for that. But you also have to recognize that in the most important areas that you're relying the most heavily upon for results, that might be an area that you may not want to automate because you want to keep improving and keep generating better results from.
Right, exactly. Because you think about in today's world where you have platforms like Snapchat, the Instagram stories, Facebook Live feed, everything that's driving people towards that live interaction. Yet you think how many businesses figure, well, I'll use an automated webinar, which is the exact opposite of where the trend is going.
Yes. And many times running in the opposite direction of what you see is a great strategy in business.
Right. You definitely want to do that. But in this particular case, you think of people are gravitating towards that authenticity. They want to truly connect with you. But if they feel like it's just another machine, another routine, are they still going to connect on the same level, the same way as if it was live?
Exactly. And I mean, going back to your question a little while ago, you said if someone's just getting started, how do they begin to connect with people? How do they begin to get those fans and subscribers and followers? Well, you know, it's by picking a platform and engaging. It's really by engaging with people. It's first making yourself visible consistently, and then second, actually engaging and having real person-to-person conversations, and developing one raving fan at a time until that snowball builds and builds and builds into the thousands.
Exactly. That's what you have to do. So with all the choices in webinar platforms out there, which ones do you like the most right now?
Oh, don't even get me started. So we've tried a couple different ones. We've not been happy with any of them, to be totally honest with you. And all of the platforms that I've come across, through today have kind of been ridden with issues and tech challenges and streaming problems. So I don't have a good answer for you today, Byron. I mean, right now, what we're using today for our live webinars is Webinar Jam. And that probably will change. But until I feel really certain and really confident with who we're going to change to, I'm not going to make a move unless I feel confident that where we're making a move to, we're not going to have the same issues that we do today. And I haven't come across anyone based on feedback that I've gotten, from other heavy webinar users that I would feel totally confident in.
Right. And that's the thing. You have to pick a platform and then go with it. There's always going to be a new one coming out. Like, oh, you have to try this product or try this one. Yet, if you don't master one system, it's hard to build anything off of it.
That's exactly right. And I mean, it takes immense time and focus and energy just to get yourself up and running with a new platform, which then distracts from what you're supposed to be doing, which is selling and marketing and, delivering the content. So I'm very slow to be making those upgrades and changes unless I'm really certain that there's going to be a very clear return on investment, for the business from that standpoint. So yeah, exactly what you're saying there is very true.
Right, definitely. So now you're using webinars consistently in your business. What's been your experience as your business grew with it? What should people start expecting in terms of those results? Like, how many people should they be striving to get on their webinars every week? What the frequency is? What are those best practices that you have when it comes to webinars?
Yeah, definitely. Well, one of the key things is, for sure, if you're going to do webinars consistently. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people making is they say, I'm going to do a webinar. And they do a webinar. And for most people, with the level of results that you're going to get from a webinar, it's really not going to do anything for you. It's the momentum of making webinars like a consistent strategy in your business that makes it a reliable income stream in your business, which would make sense, right? Like if you want something to produce consistent income for you, you have to do it consistently. So my top tip is to do it frequently. The second thing is, make sure that you have a good pre-sequence and a good follow-up sequence, really selling and promoting your product, creating that sense of urgency, having some scarcity around some bonuses or maybe the price going up or whatever the case, give people a reason to show up. So we use a pre-webinar workbook that we send out ahead of time. You want to do anything you can do after that person signs up for the webinar to get them on, right? And just work really hard to make sure that every lead that you get has the highest possibility of turning into a paying client. Some of the other key things to really think about are engagement. So the more that you engage with your audience during the webinar and at the end, the better results you're going to get. So I always find that the webinars where people are really fired up and people are going back and forth in the chat and there's a lot of action happening live, those are the ones where we sell the most. So ask questions, encourage participation, stop and pause and be a real person throughout it. Don't just be following a script top to bottom. And then at the end, when you do your sales pitch, make sure you stay on at the end and answer people's questions, and then bring each question and answer back again to how your product is going to solve that problem that they're asking that question around. So those are some of the key things that have really made webinars successful for us.
And those are all valid points, because too many people forget that there's questions that people have. What are those objections? And the quicker we're able to answer objections that people have, the quicker we're able to help them make that decision if this is the right product or the right service to help them right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the best things that you can do for yourself, especially in the beginning, is kind of come up with a list of the top 10 questions that people might have before investing in your product or program, and actually, creating slides where you answer those questions and you say, hey, these are some of the questions that my clients have had in the past before investing in this product. And so I want to walk you through them because these might be some of the same concerns that you have right now. And I want to help you understand how the product is going to be able to address this or that or the other. So that's another key thing that can be really helpful, is addressing those objections that people are going to have head on by just speaking to them and helping them overcome that fear and overcome that barrier that's standing between them and your product or program.
Right. And that's so vital. Just do a little prep work, because it's not something where you simply want to show up and go, hey, everybody, I'm here to sell you and you're going to buy, and that's it. Here's the shopping cart button and call it a day. There's more to it.
Exactly.
And obviously, you have this system in place. What have you found to be the most effective for getting people to show up to your webinars, especially if you're doing them on a weekly basis, to keep them full of potential prospects? Because for some people, they think weekly webinars, oh my gosh, how am I going to get in front of so many people?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a huge misnomer. I think that, a lot of people focus on the volume of getting tons and tons of people registered and tons of people on the webinar, when in reality, it's much more important that the people that got on your webinar are warm leads. They're people that know you, that like you, that trust you, and that have a strong potential of buying from you. So for us, instead of focusing on going out and getting all these new leads for our webinars, we invite our own list to our webinars. And I have different webinars that we run at different times for different products and different programs. And so we have very nice buying ratios because the people that are getting on the webinars are already invested in the brand. So we do Facebook advertising for lead generation to get new people on the list every day. And then those people are immediately being nurtured. They're getting podcast episodes from me. They're getting a video tip every Friday. They're getting, invites to the webinars. So they're just getting a ton of value constantly from us, so that when they do finally decide today's my day to get on one of Kelly's webinars, they've already kind of made the decision that they're pretty close to wanting to invest. They just need to kind of make sure it's right for them. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. So by the sounds of it, you spend the vast majority of time loving on them, getting them familiar with your brand. So then when the invite comes, it becomes a simple yes.
Exactly.
And that changes everything for a business, because I always love using dating analogies, that you can't just walk up to someone and just say, your place or mine, because that doesn't go well. You have to treat what's this courtship of saying, hey, I like your watch, I like this, and go through it before you can move down the road.
Exactly. And I mean, you have to understand that. And that's why so many people, I think, get burnout and frustrated and upset with webinars, because they spend so much money to get people to opt in. And because those people are not necessarily warm leads to them that have been following their brand for a while, many of them don't show up. And the ones that do are not ready to buy most of the time because, they haven't had enough time on your list, and so there's a relationship there between you and the people that are on your list, and there's a relationship between you and the people that are on your webinar, and you have to be realistic in terms of the stage that they're in and be smart and strategic about who you're targeting to get on your product, especially dependent upon what the price point is of the program that you're selling.
Right, exactly. So you're using different mediums to get people onto your list, like Facebook advertising and such. What have you seen has been the common trend for the number of contact points before someone decides to sign up on your webinar and then ultimately buys from you?
Yeah, it's a huge range. I wish I had a good answer for that, and I would love to nail that down. But honestly, it is a huge range, Byron. We will have people that will be on for a week. We will have people that have been following me for 2-3 years. Literally, the range is that big. So that's why, for me, the strategy in my business is always have an ad running for a regular opt-in point that attracts people onto the list that ultimately want rapid business growth, that are going to be a match for the products and programs overall that I sell and market. Always be running that to put fresh leads in the top of my funnel. Make sure every week I'm delivering over the top value in podcast episodes, videos, tips, and webinar invites, and then focus on getting those people as quickly as I possibly can into these webinars to buy. But there's so much variation in kind of the personal psychology of when someone's ready to buy and when they decide it's right for them. And even when they're available to get on a webinar, that there's just a huge range there.
Right. And you hit the key point on the head, that there's going to be people at different buying points, because you see a lot of people saying, oh, you can get all these people to buy from you right now. But the reality is that if you're looking for that long-term success, there's going to be some people, they have that immediate need, like, I need this right now. This is perfect timing. I see your message. And then just like you said, you have those that have been on your list for years before they actually buy from you. It's all a matter of timing.
Exactly.
But it comes with that responsibility to consistently be showing up in their lives each and every week, loving on them, providing value. So then they ultimately want to buy from you because they have that need that needs help.
That's it. That's it.
Right. And, it's sometimes you would think it's more complicated than that, but that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's just understanding that you have to go first. And I say this all the time on Unstoppable Success Radio on my show. You have to invest first. So that means that you have to deliver the over to the top value. You have to deliver the goods to the people on your list. You have to get them invested in your brand. You have to go first if you want them to come back and become a raving fan and a follower and subscriber that actually buys from you. And if you take on that mindset and mentality, then you'll always be doing the right thing, not just for the short term, but also the long term of your business.
Right, exactly. You hit something very critical there, that it's doing things best for the long term, not the short term. Because you think about how many times people will look at something as, oh, I want to make this quick cash, I'm going to run this promotion, but it's not in an alignment, it's not congruent with your message. So you might get some sales, but then long term it hurts your brand.
Yes.
And so it's vital that people look at, how does something serve their community, which makes a difference.
Exactly. Yep, exactly.
So obviously you have a podcast, you have a best-selling book, you're leveraging Facebook. What other platforms are you using consistently to stay in front of your audience?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, Unstoppable Success Radio is huge because we have 3 episodes a week. So, a lot of our clients come from there. We invite people, obviously from our list to our webinars, which we do about 3 weeks out of the month. So webinars and podcasting are definitely our top client generation sources. As far as where we are marketing ourselves, it's really Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And then I do a lot of guest podcasting, and we get a pretty good steady stream of new clients coming in from doing guest spots on other people's shows as well. So it's really the podcast world, the webinar world, and then those 3 platforms. I'm not a crazy social media type person, so I'm not on like 15 different platforms, and I'm not into like Snapchat or any of that kind of stuff. I like to kind of keep it simple. Facebook marketing has always been really effective. We are doing a lot more now with YouTube. So my team goes in and optimizes our YouTube videos, and that's been growing our subscribers there every week. So that's kind of one of the things for next year that will start to become its own income stream there. But those are really the core mechanisms for us. Oh,
excellent. And it says something really valuable, that you're not everywhere. And that's something I think people need to understand, because there's some people who have this mindset, I need to be on every single platform. But the reality is, where are your clients spending their time at? Why spend time where they're not?
Well, that and the more places that you are, so to speak, the more that your energy and focus is diluted. And so I kind of have a rule in the business. We don't take anything on that we can't do 110%. And so if we can't do it 110%, we're not going to do it at all. And, there's so much to be done with even just the mechanisms and platforms I just mentioned there. There's an endless amount of optimization and performance improvement to be done there that it really doesn't make sense to keep adding to that until we feel like we've mastered and maximized the profit that can be generated from those platforms.
Right, exactly. It's so important to be able to give your all. And you can see that quickly with people if they say, oh, I'm on such and such platforms, but they're not engaging with anyone. They're using it simply as a broadcast tool. And engagement's everything today.
Mm-hmm. It really, really is. It really is.
Right. So obviously, you have your business, which is highly successful, and you have a family. How are you creating abundance in both of these areas? Because there's some people out there who think, I want to grow a business, but I'm raising a family. And they have concerns that they'll build their business, but then their family won't see them for the next couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the key thing is as an entrepreneur, you have to be ruthless with your time and you have to learn how to get a lot done in small pockets and windows of time. And you also have to keep the long-term goal and vision for your life, in your focus at all times. For me, everything that I do is for my family. So in every decision that I make, I consider my family. And so whatever your vision is for the long term of your life, look at who you want to be in that picture and what you want that to be like and consider that in the decisions that you make. But I think for entrepreneurs, it's about not doing everything. It's about doing a few things really, really well. And if you do those few things really, really well, then you can accomplish significant results in a very manageable set of working hours. It's just about discipline and focus and really being clear about what you're going to utilize as your power levers to achieve your goals versus trying to do everything and be everything and just being kind of a hot mess that's all over the place and not really making traction on any of it, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. You have to know ultimately what your superpower is and stick with it. You can't be the jack of all trades because how much are you really going to get done if you're trying to do that?
Right.
So now in your business, are you leveraging a team of people to help you get everything done?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a team of 5. And so that's, obviously a huge reason for the success and growth that we're having. I mean, of course, it didn't start that way. When I started my business, it was me. And then I had a virtual support company to help me out for about an hour a week, post my blog, send out my newsletter, do those kind of basic things. But yeah, certainly, I think one of the most important things to be focused on all day, every day as an entrepreneur is how am I going to build my team? Because it's through building your team that you separate yourself from the business and get to the point where the business can continue to grow with or without you.
Right. And that's something I think that vision that has to be cast when we take everything that we've talked about today. It's how do you leverage this so you can be able to grow, so you can be able to get those team members or that virtual assistant, that personal assistant to run the different errands throughout the day, how you can start leveraging time so you can have more time available to you to do the things that you want to do, such as spending it with your family or your friends or whatever.
Yep, exactly.
Because if we forget about that, then what's the purpose of starting a business if you're just creating another job for yourself?
That's right. That's right. You hit the nail on the head.
Right. So as we wrap everything up here, what's one thing that you would recommend every person who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur right now do to grow their business?
Invest in learning sales and marketing. That's the do or die thing as far as starting and growing a successful business is, will you commit to learning how to do sales and marketing? And if you're not committed to that and you don't have enough of a compelling vision for what you want, that you're willing to learn that and do that, even though it may not be your natural inclination, then entrepreneurship may not be the best path for you. And that's okay. It's not for everyone.
Right, exactly. You have to know that right up front and take the time to learn the sales and marketing, because without it, it's hard to stay in business or impossible to stay in business.
Exactly.
So with that, how can people be able to reach out and contact you, learn more about your programs to help them reach their goals in life?
Yeah, definitely. Well, everything that we talked about today, from webinars to podcasting, sales and marketing, rapid business growth, these are all things that I teach in the Unstoppable Entrepreneur Program, which is my flagship 12-month coaching program. But beyond that, I would say absolutely to text in the word celebrity to 44222. You had asked early on in the interview, Byron, how do people get started building those fans, building followers, getting subscribers, getting buyers so that they can gain visibility and grow their business? And that is what I teach in this free training series. All you have to do is text in celebrity to 44222 to get instant access to that. And I hope that everybody listening will make that investment in themselves and their business today.
Oh, that's awesome. I want to thank you, Kelly, for sharing your wisdom today on sales and marketing, webinars, and all the things that we talked about, which are vital components for people to create success in their life and in their business.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Big Movement Podcast today. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Now that you've surely been inspired to take your entrepreneurial career and business to the next level, you can stop by the website and get more. And if you're ready to boost your business brand, be sure to grab your free report, 7 Easy Steps to Build Your Brand Today.